Now, a lot of you are probably asking, well, who the hell are you, and where the hell do you get off calling yourself a genius, let alone an evil one? Well, some background. Age. I currently live in Delaware, which, for those of you who are interested, is pretty close to the fifth circle of hell. I don't have anything against Delaware per se. It's just, well, Delaware kind of reminds me of, well, if you've ever seen the old movie The Day After, well, it's pretty close to that. An even better example would be, well, Wayne's World. Wayne's World would be a perfect example. Well, we're in Delaware. Outside of that, Kojito, I am a encyclopedic fountain of all sorts of information. Pretty much, I've read a whole hell of a lot. I didn't have a whole lot else to do as a kid, and, well, that was my entertainment. Some people had television. I had books. I'm a historian, poet, amateur chemist. For those of you who have written to me actually asking all sorts of bizarre questions as to what I make with chemistry, get your mind out of the gutter. I do not actually have anything to do with modern drug culture. I was just interested in chemistry. There you go. It's like saying that if I was a botanist that, well, I had to have some sort of illicit botany trade. I don't know. It's just a very bizarre question that people have asked me. I am a rookie brewmeister, theologian, astronomer, scientist, though I prefer the terminology natural philosopher. Scientist implies that I actually, well, do something for the sciences, and I actually just learn about it. I am a recovering Republican and a reformed Democrat. There's more on that later on, though. Mathematician, fencer, martial artist, actor, writer, and critic. Fundamentally, I am a planner, a schemer, and a teacher. I have been called other things, some of which I actually will not actually put into polite conversation. I've been on the stage with congressmen and senators, and I've also been on the stage acting in Shakespeare, professionally. I've sung in a punk band, and I've sung in a messianic choir. I have friends from all over the world, and I enjoy each and every one of them. I'm proud to say that I've done things in 30 years that, unfortunately, many people won't do in 85. In high school, I actually was the founder of what ended up becoming the Evil Geniuses Club. It comes from a conceit that if you look at just modern media, most antagonists, I hesitate to call them villains, but most antagonists don't actually fill the definition of evil. There are plenty of them out there, but usually they are in, forms of entertainment that, well, frankly, are cartoonish. Essentially, people who upset the status quo. Think about it. At that point, you could technically say that people like, Benjamin Franklin, who by nature liked to agitate and actually liked to live a nonconformist lifestyle. Or alternately, you could actually take people like Abraham Lincoln, who might not have wanted to upset the status quo, but ended up doing so anyway, more a victim of circumstances in terms of the Civil War. On an economic front, you could take people who are mavericks, such as Bill Gates. You can insert your Windows joke here, or Thomas Edison, who ultimately changed the way that America actually functioned as a nation, at least on an industrial front. All of these people could technically be defined as evil if you take the modern media context of things. I turned it into a actual quote in which I said that heroes may have morals, but at least villains have work ethic. Now, I've used a lot of political statements within this first article, and honestly, again, I want to point out that this will not only be on politics. There are a lot of issues out there that we're going to be discussing, ranging from entertainment all the way to, I don't know, the price of tea in China. It all depends on what strikes my fancy, and it all depends on what my listeners are interested in hearing. However, professionally, I will say that I have been a professional political consultant, or at least a political operative, depending on how cool you want me to sound, for the last 15 years. Now, for those of you who are curious as to what a political operative is, essentially I create and craft and then deliver a political message on behalf of my clients. Essentially, those political ads that you have seen and have been haunted by for, well, some time now, I'm one of those guys who creates them. I am also one of the guys who has created the problem that I've been railing against for the last 10 minutes. So, I can only say that while I agree that people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, I've at least recognized there's a problem. Unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there who, A, feel that there is no problem with the current political system, or B, don't care because the current political system benefits them. Today I see wedge issues and partisan grandstanding on both sides of the debate literally replace common sense and the public good. That's not to say two things. First, my political convictions are staying the same. I'm not going to actually change my opinions without a pretty good argument on the other side. I just feel that the political culture is so insane right now that both parties have lost their way. In fact, if I was pressed on the issue, I would advocate the dismantling of the party system, at least on the national level, though I realize that there's no legal or practical way to actually do this. However, one good thing is that by leaving the political arena, and frankly now being unemployed, I am now able to express the beliefs that I have always held, even the unpopular ones. As a consultant, I was obligated by both my business and clients to keep within the party line, so to speak. Part of that is not calling out everyone on bullshit that exists simply to win elections. I had a motivated self-interest in not doing so. Eating and paying the rent are wonderful moderating influences towards the status quo. Now, second, I actually don't blame the major political parties or politicians on either side for what has become the political equivalent of the inmates running the asylum. For the political parties, I can't really blame them. In the age of social networking, modern communications, blogging, vlogging, and guerrilla media, they're essentially reduced to battling for survival. If you look at any of their fundraising totals, you can actually look and see the slow, steady slide in terms of not only their influence, but also their influence on candidates. The problem is that they are battling for the attention of social movement groups. Social movement groups being, groups that have a particular cause. Be that cause, I don't know, the elimination of the federal government at total on one extreme, or the complete takeover of the economic system by the government on the other extreme. So social movement groups are essentially taking up a singular cause. Now, unfortunately, the political parties who are now hemorrhaging support in terms of not only people who are identifying themselves as Republican or as Democrat or as, frankly, any party outside of independent, which isn't a party, they're reduced to actually begging groups that are quasi-aligned or somewhat aligned with a plank within one of the large political parties for their attention and for their support. Political parties are essentially LPs in a CD world. In a world where we're seeing the personalization of pretty much everything, from phones to computers to this very broadcast, is essentially a personalization of an opinion. Years ago, I would not be able to do this unless I was actually on, say, a broadcast network or had a ham radio even.